What's going on, everybody? Welcome into Breaking Bet. Guys, it's bittersweet. We got the best time of the year coming up. The College World Series, pound for pound, the best postseason in all of sports. If you don't agree with me, you're wrong. I actually had this debate with a couple of my buddies last night. But, obviously that's the great part. I got my guy John Bollman here with me, and he'll probably tell you the same thing. It's great, but it's also sad it's coming to an end. This felt like the season flew by. And, John, it's a great time, but also sad to see another season come to an end, buddy.
Yeah, exactly what I was thinking. We got the World Cup coming up soon, but after that, other than that, football season's coming up and, it's going to be very light. So, it kind of sucks that we've only got a week and a half left, but, Omaha is the best place to play. We're playing for a championship now, so we got a lot of fun ahead of us.
Yeah, man. I think really here, obviously, we talked about this after the regionals. Like, there were some surprises, no doubt. Every year, there's always surprises. I kind of highlighted in my RotoWire article ahead of the regionals, like, hey, every year we're seeing 6 or 7 tournaments or hosts get knocked out. That's kind of been the average. And like we saw a lot of not just hosts, but the big ones, UCLA, Florida, Georgia Tech, like they got clipped. And we saw a couple in the super regionals, I think. But, overall, I think it was an electric weekend last week, and we're geared up for some big-time matchups. So, John, without further ado, let's take a look at this College World Series. What are you expecting? What kind of matchups are you looking out for? How does the format benefit teams? Really, how do you create an advantage if you're one of these teams?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things is going to be that Georgia-Texas matchup in the first game. I feel like that's a game that could honestly be the championship, the College World Series championship games. And they're ending up playing the first game. So
I don't know what the castaway impression means. Does it sound like Tom Hanks? I don't know.
Yeah. But no, that first game, Georgia, Texas is going to be critical. And even if one of them loses, I wouldn't be surprised I wouldn't be more surprised if Texas makes it out of the losers bracket. They have the pitching. But other than that, I think the other thing is the way the brackets are set up, right?
Yeah.
We got all these SEC teams on the right side, and I think it's pretty wide open, to be honest. And on the left side, I think it couldn't be more wide open. So, just a lot of it. Those are the two things that I was thinking.
Yeah, I think for me, obviously, it's the same thing. Like anybody that is either new to the sport or, just getting familiar with it. We talked about this last week. The Super Regionals, in my opinion, is the easiest weekend in the entire tournament. Other than the College World Series Finals, which obviously has a lot more on the line, the Super Regionals, it's the closest thing. It's the exact same thing as a in-conference series, best-of-3 weekend series. So you know exactly that you're playing at most 3 games. The Regionals is the toughest, in my opinion. The Regionals is the hardest because you could realistically have to play 5 games. Some of these teams did. And this first round, obviously you're in Omaha and, the competition stiffens up here and, you're on a bigger stage, you're in a bigger ball field. The ball doesn't fly out as much. But this is very much, it's more similar. It's basically like the regionals. This weekend here really kind of sets that up. So there's 4 teams on each side. Right, it's the Omaha 8, 4 teams. So it's basically the same thing where if you win the first 3 in a row, you're going to be moving on to the finals. But if you lose the first one, you're going to have to battle back and win 4 straight. So as always, winning game 1 is priority. I'm not this year. I wish I was. Maybe if it's Ole Miss, Texas, I might take a quick trip out there, see what the prices are. But to be honest, I have to really plan that ahead. Going condo shopping, so it's kind of a tough time of the year for me. But maybe we'll see. In any case, game 1 is so crucial. So these game one previews really drive home the sense of like, hey, if we want to win, we really got to get off on the right foot here. So without further ado, let's get into the first game slated. And this is for tomorrow. This is for Friday. It's going to be West Virginia against Troy. That is a 2 o'clock start time. John, West Virginia, they had a relatively easy super regional, right? Like Cal Poly, give them their flowers. They won the UCLA region. They looked good doing it. Move on. They got fucking rinsed. They got boat raced. West Virginia put a beating on them. But the regional was tough. Kentucky, like they had a battle, like weren't really sure. But West Virginia found a way to get it done. Now they're going against Troy. I'll complain about it once more, John. I'm so sick that Troy beat Florida. Like, how did Florida do that? Had a layup. Moses parted the Red Sea for them with Littlecock at home in the Super Regionals and had a realistic path to get to the finals. And then they shit the bed against Troy. Sickening. Nonetheless, the Trojans make their first ever Omaha appearance. They're going against WVU. Not sure the exact pitching matchup. It's probably going to be Ben Stubbs for Troy. Not sure if West Virginia is going to run it back with Chance Cole or get their guy Maxiell on the mound, Big 12 pitcher of the year. But regardless of the pitching matchup, is that going to impact how you're betting this game?
No, I think both are fine. I would trust both. I think West Virginia plays the perfect kind of baseball for Omaha. You know, they didn't have, like you said, the toughest road to Omaha, but they play the perfect type of baseball. You know, they get on, they get runners over, they bunt, and they get them in. And I feel like that's going to benefit them in a game like this. They also have, is it Montesa coming? They can come out of the bullpen now, covers multiple innings. You know, they've got a couple relievers they can rely on. Whereas Troy, you know, they don't necessarily have that bullpen depth. Stubbs probably going to go game one, but you know, I think he'll help keep it low scoring. But like I said, Troy's been getting through with a bunch of home runs, especially from their 8-hitter, Jabe, forgetting his last name. Boroff. So he's been doing damage, but a lot of these are home runs, right? It's very hard to hit a home run Charles Schwab Field. So I think Troy's going to have a much more difficult time, you know, with West Virginia's bats and the way that they play and the big field at Charles Schwab.
Look, man, I really like West Virginia. I like what they're doing. West Virginia would love to see they towards lefties. Yeah. And I agree with you, man. Like West Virginia, you know, it was weird because in the regionals, they played very sloppy. They didn't play well against Kentucky. You know, a usually surefire pitching staff. They were making mistakes, wild pitches, couldn't command the baseball. They were giving up leads. Their defense was sloppy. You know, they were running into some outs. So a little uncharacteristic. Now, like, look, Troy, great for them. Again, like barely made it into the tournament. They somehow caught Florida sleeping or Florida just choked, a combination of both. And then, you know, they get a layup at home against Little Rock. So, you know, look, I just personally don't think that Troy's pitching staff is good enough. I don't think they're that good. They have the kid Hayden Smith, who's been decent. Like he was solid against Florida in that last game. But I mean, their top two starters have ERAs well into the fives. Like West Virginia, like you said, they play the perfect brand. They can hit home runs, but they're not home run reliant. And by the way, for anybody that doesn't know, the 2027 draft class is loaded from the college side. And West Virginia might have the number one pick next year in Gavin Kelly. Stud. Kid is disgusting. Having a great postseason. Like, this is the guy that anchors their lineup. They steal bases. They got Armani Guzman, who's just wreaking havoc at the top of the lineup. And in a giant field like Omaha, where the gaps play big, there's a lot of room behind the plate to take advantage of wild pitches. They steal. Like, there's a lot of ground to cover. So it's a great opportunity for a team like West Virginia to take advantage. And, you know, in that turn, like, I wanted to kind of reference this. And this is just me Googling an AI overview, so I apologize if maybe some of the numbers were wrong. So in the College World Series last year, there was, I think, a total of 14 home runs hit, which, like, that's not a lot. That's not a little. That's on the smaller side in terms of, like, recent. if I don't know if it sounds right, but 37 home runs were hit the year before in 2024. I mean, I don't remember, but I'm not sure if that's accurate. But I mean, Troy's kind of been relying on the long ball, and you can hit it out in Omaha. We've seen that kind of over the last few years, but it's not really a ballpark, especially if the wind is not in your favor, where you're going to be relying on the home run ball. You got to be able to put the ball in play. You got to be able to do the little things, and those are the teams that usually win, is the ones that do the little things. But regardless, I like West Virginia here. I think they're going to be able to get this one done. It was a great story for Troy, but the matchup is just it's very much in favor of the Mountaineers here.
Yeah, I like West Virginia and the under.
All right, let's get into the one I really want to talk about. UNC Ole Miss. Wow. Ole Miss, John, coming into the tournament here. I talked a lot about them. 60-1. I have a lot of Ole Miss. I had no Ole Miss until right before the tournament. I'm loaded into the 5 figures on Ole Miss right now. Ole Miss has essentially replaced Florida for me. Like, Ole Miss is the new Florida for me. It's like I've been riding Florida all year. I had a lot of money on them. And, I was like, hey, let me grab Ole Miss because I think the paths there, they have the ceiling, blah, blah, blah. So Ole Miss ran through Auburn, played great, found a way against a team that was a top 5 team, top 10 team all year. Now, UNC, on the other hand, they were on the ropes against USC. UNC kind of ran through their own little region. They beat ECU and VCU. Great. USC hit them in the mouth, and kind of the reverse of what the Heels happened to the Heels last year, where they won the first game and then pissed it away the second 2. They lose the first one this year and come back and win the second 2, the last 2, walk-off fashion. So, John, UNC, Ole Miss, what's the favorite status? Pitching depending. There's a couple different scenarios here. What do you like off face value right now?
Yeah, so I mean, this is definitely one of the most intriguing matchups. I think Ole Miss is definitely going to go with Hunter Elliott. He has the experience. They don't even care what kind of season he had, and I don't think he does either. But he's pitched in this situation before. He'll definitely get the ball game 1. UNC, I think they should go back to DeCaro in the first game, and I think they will after seeing him. Yeah, after seeing him dominate. I think they decided that game 2 in the Super Regional is kind of the swing game. So they pushed him back to there. And then the other, what's the reliever's name for UNC? Glauber?
Caden Glauber.
Glauber, yeah. So I have a feeling that they would go to him in, maybe an elimination game as opposed to going to Lynch. Or, I mean, we haven't seen much of Boaz, but I think they would go with him to start again after he pitched really well the first time. And then you have your guys, Walker McDuffie, Matisse, you got a bunch of North Carolina guys that can come in from the bullpen. So I think they end up going with DeCaro, Elliott. I'm going to go in under every time. These 2 types of teams too, Ole Miss, they do hit home runs to score their runs. They've got those power middle of the order bats. That being said, those guys can actually hit it out, and they've been winning pretty much every game, just been winning, and it's been lower scoring. So, I like Ole Miss here at plus money. I think this should be much closer to pick 'em. Like you mentioned, UNC, barely squeaked by USC, and that was, DeCaro dominated, but it wasn't exactly the easiest path for them. And Ole Miss has just been winning games. So I like Ole Miss, and I like the under here.
Yeah, I like Ole Miss as well, man. It's not just because I've been riding them. Like since the tournament started, like Ole Miss was a team I highlighted for a reason. In my preseason or my pre-tournament article on RotoWire, I said, I think the biggest sleeper, the biggest dark horse in the whole field is Ole Miss. Because the interesting thing about them, like, they weren't great this year. They were 15-15. The thing about Ole Miss, they are the most high variance team in the entire field. This is a team that can play really low on both sides of the ball, and it's brutal. But when they're cooking, they're just so good and they're so dangerous. And let's call it what it is, man. They have 3 really good starters led by Hunter Elliott, a guy who has been here. He's been to the dance. He played a huge role in that 2022 title run as a freshman. He's got the experience. There's no other pitcher in this entire field that has the Omaha experience like Hunter Elliott. DeCaro's pitched in here, yeah, but Hunter Elliott was a big reason why they got here. Now, DeCaro, obviously, like, he's pitched in Omaha, but if I'm not mistaken, I don't think any other pitchers besides, or any other starters besides Elliott and DeCaro pitched in Omaha. I'm not 100% sure on that, but in any case, you got Elliott, you got bullpen pieces, you got Mike Bianco, a guy who's won the chip 4 years ago. You got an offense that can hit the ball out of this park. Now, obviously, look, we've seen it when they're not hitting the ball or they're not putting it in play. Like, this team has a really bad swing and miss problem, and like we saw that. But at the end of the day, like, they've been finding a way to get it done. And even though it's not always pretty, they figure it out, man. I think UNC's really good, and what makes them good is they're so consistent. They play at a high floor. They don't make mistakes. But to me, UNC just doesn't have that wow factor. And you know, you don't always need the wow factor, but Ole Miss has like those guys that could swing the game. Tristan Becerra, Judd Utermark, Hayden Federico. They got the guys on the mound. And I think in truth, when it comes to Ole Miss, if they get this first one down, then you're lining up with Taylor Rabe against maybe Chance and Cole in game 2 against West Virginia. And that's a much more winnable. Like, Ole Miss, for them to win, they got to cut down the mistakes, cut down the swing and miss, put the ball in play, don't do dumb shit, and I think you're going to come out and win this game. It's a very difficult matchup because of the consistency. I like Jason DeCaro a lot, but he's not a big strikeout pitcher. This is a guy that can pitch to contact. And Ole Miss is a team that can definitely hit the ball out. We've seen it in the past. And sometimes it's been one swing, and their pitching has been so good in keeping them in it. Like, they've taken down both stars from Auburn in terms of they've took down Petrovic, they took down Alvarez, they took down Cole Carlin, they took down Nebraska's pitchers. Like, all of these teams that they had to beat, like, Jason DeCaro is not this guy that's going to be a top pick next year or this year. He might be a first rounder, but chances are he's probably trending more towards like a day 2 pick. I like DeCaro. I think the relievers they got are really good, but the situation changes on this stage. Mike Bianco he's got that experience of the chip under his belt, not just getting here. And I'm not saying this because I want Ole Miss to win or because I bet them. I just think they have that it factor right now. They have that X factor. And that's the kind of shit that you can't quantify that. That's just like you see what's going on with them. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I want my bet to come home, but that's why I bet them. That's what I'm seeing right now from Ole Miss. And I still think they're undervalued. 8-1. I don't know. We got some comments here. I think they moved the start time to fight the show. We're talking about the show. John, I put a future on Georgia at the start of the regionals to win it all. What do you think? Vincent, we're going to touch that in a second. Got my boy Crutch here. DeCaro goes in the second round. Ceiling is crazy. I think he's more of a high floor guy, but I like DeCaro. I thought he took a step back last year. He had a really good year this year. But it's some stuff he's got to improve on. All right, let's talk about the big game here. I think in terms of like viewership, it's Saturday night and it's fitting. Brother, it's going to be Georgia versus Texas. John, I just did a lot of talking. Start me off here. Lines moved a little bit. Texas drawing some favor. This is not only a big game in terms of entertainment, but it's a huge game one because it can ultimately shape the path of not only who emerges from that side of the bracket, but who wins it all. So give me your breakdown here.
Yeah, exactly. This is the big matchup. I think these are the two best teams left, and they end up playing in the first round. I'll answer that question first at the start of the regionals. Yeah, I do, because I think whoever wins this is going to end up winning the College World Series. So I like Georgia there. I have my future on Texas. I'm considering hedging with Georgia right now. I had Texas at plus 1,600. I was thinking about Georgia 2 units at plus 300. So then it would either be plus 14 units or plus 5 units, something like that. But this is going to be an absolute battle. I think Georgia is going to try to go with Caden Aoki in this game instead of Volchko, just because of the way he's performed in the postseason. He did get pitched like 110, 115 pitches, though, so I wouldn't be terribly surprised if we go back to Volchko. But Volchko did not look good in that first game. I mean, he got absolutely rocked. Georgia's pitching hasn't been, there hasn't been a ton of depth. Dylan Vigay, I mean, he came in relief for Caden Aoki in that game too, I believe it was, and he wasn't good. And then Georgia really has nobody else after that. They brought in a ton of relievers and no one could get outs, and that's been their kryptonite. That being said, they have the best lineup easily left, but they also hit a ton of home runs to do it. I mean, they're all batting like 350, but they hit a ton of home runs, and that would be Georgia's weakness. So if Texas can miss some bats, if Georgia suddenly goes quiet, we saw a team like Georgia Tech who's built around their bats, they get knocked out early. So, I think Georgia's pitching could be exposed. Texas, on the other hand, they have the pitching depth. They have Volantis. They're going to go with Volantis, I'm assuming. And then they have Ruger Riojas as well. Then you keep going down, and, they have Sam Kozart coming out of that bullpen who's been absolutely lights out. Thomas Burns. They've got a lot of options in the Texas bullpen. And so I think Texas is the more complete team. Their lineup also has been hot. They're hitting well right now. But, this is a one-off game. Anybody could win this game. I like Texas. I also like the under, but I think that this is going to get bet up. I have a feeling a lot of people are going to hit the over here, so I'm going to wait, but I'm probably going to end up playing the under, and I like Texas.
I'm going full Tony Romo. Like, ooh, I don't know, Jim. Look, man, this is almost a crime that we got matched up the first game. Like, this is a crime. This should at least be the final game to see who goes to the finals from that side. Because the loser is going to really get the shit end of the stick here. But look, man, Texas and Florida were the two teams all year I've been riding on. All year. I really like Georgia. Like, after Georgia made all those moves in the fall, I'm like, wow, like, Georgia, let's bet them. Like, they were still like 14-1. It wasn't that crazy, but I'm like, you know what? Like, they picked up a lot of pitching, but let's see how they plan out. And the pitching's been okay, but like, they definitely have some downfalls. But the lineup is undeniable. Like, every year, it's always undeniable. It's been amazing. Daniel Jackson's going to win the Golden Spikes. Here's the thing. I think Georgia is a great team. I think they're unbelievable. They can absolutely win this game. They can absolutely win Omaha. I would not be surprised. The only reason that I'm going to go with Texas in this game, Dylan Volantis. Dylan Volantis is easily the best pitcher left in Omaha. Easily. This is a guy that you do not see. You don't see this guy anywhere. This is a Chris Sale level built 21-year-old or 20-year-old, whatever he is. The only thing he doesn't have is like that high 90s heater. He's like 92, 93, but he's got an insanely sick, like 10-4 curveball, cutter, change piece. Like, this is an unreal pitcher. Dylan Volantis is going to be a top 10 pick next year. And I think that's the reason why Georgia won't be able to get this one done this year. Won't be able to get this one done this week. It's like Georgia doesn't have a problem hunting the heat. It's now, what are you going to do when you got a guy who's not throwing that hard, but he's throwing a lot of spin at you? And granted, like, Georgia as a team hit over 150 homers this year. They can get the ball out of Omaha. It's not feed the trees. It's not as easy, but it's very, very doable, especially for Georgia. But the thing is, these balls that like ordinarily might go out in Athens might not go out in Omaha. And truth be told, I think the bigger question is, what does the Georgia pitching do? Like, I love Caden Aoki. I think he was the biggest pickup for them all year, even though he doesn't get the credit. I think if it's Joey Volchko going, I'd probably put Texas closer to -154, -160. If it's Aoki, I think it's a fair number because Texas can hit. Texas is going to be able to hit. The Georgia pitching is nothing special. Like especially what Texas has done since that Tennessee series, where like the one reason why I was happy Texas got their ass beat by Tennessee was because like, hey, maybe this like snaps it out of them and they get going to finish the year strong, right, John? Like, and that's kind of what they done. That's what's happening. Ada Robbins, fucking unbelievable. Carson Tinney, unbelievable. Anthony Pack, unbelievable. Timo Becerra. They got dudes right now. They're ripping. I just think the advantage with Dylan Volantis in this game here puts Texas on the path. I think it puts them on the path. I got Texas here. I think Texas gets game one. All right, last piece of the puzzle is going to be Alabama, Oklahoma. Wow. John, it's basically a coin flip. I mean, Alabama, after Georgia Tech went down, got a pretty generous path. Oklahoma, credit to them, man. Skip Johnson program. Can't take them lightly in June. How to get through Georgia Tech, John. And then they boat raced Kansas in their own super regional. Very, very impressive path for the Sooners. Very well done. Do you think their luck runs out, or do you think they get through Alabama?
No, this is actually my biggest play of the first weekend. I like Oklahoma on the money line here. I think they're going to dominate. They're red hot. You know, we've seen them before go on this sort of stretch, and they ended up making it to the College World Series finals. I believe that was when they lost to Ole Miss. But Oklahoma, they're pretty much their pitching is pitching the best that they have right now, and their hitting is hitting the best that they've had all season. And, you know, when you have that combination, you're gonna win. And Oklahoma's just been laying it on teams. You know, they've got all the confidence in the world after beating Georgia Tech twice. Went into Kansas, dominated both games, like you said. Absolutely rocked Vagelli, who hasn't been having the best season, but was pitching really well in the postseason. Alabama has their three main starters. I think they're all average. Like the pitching quality doesn't fall off, but they don't have really an ace. Like any of them can get hit. And they don't have much bullpen. Alabama doesn't either. Oklahoma has had, you know, they're mixing and matching pitchers, and they're just getting, you know, 4 or 5 innings out of one, seeing how much they can get just to win games. You know, Cam Johnson, their ace all season long, he pitched 1 inning in regionals, and I don't even think he recorded an out. So they've kind of just been mixing and matching pitching, and it's been working for them. So I absolutely love Oklahoma here. You know, Alabama's like lineup, if you look at their numbers, they really haven't been that great, you know, overall this season. They've just had a couple guys get hot with, you know, key hits, and, you know, they didn't have the toughest path to Omaha. They played Alabama State, USC Upstate, Oklahoma State on their like 4th game. And we know how bad their pitching falls off, and they barely beat those teams. And then they got St. John's at home, and like, yeah, St. John's is a solid team, but they're not top 25. They haven't beaten a top 25 team yet. And yeah, they did beat Oklahoma 2 out of 3 in the regular season, but I love Oklahoma here. This is my favorite play. I'm probably going to end up going with the under as well, because it's been the trend. You know, even though that, I mean, I think the Georgia game is most likely to go over, I would still play that under. But I think this would be the second most likely to go over. I'm still playing unders the way that this stadium trends, especially with everyone, all the pitchers are rested and they get a rest day after. Everyone will be available.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think I'm going Oklahoma here too. You know, Alabama, they're kind of like Auburn. They're a team that did really well. And I felt like despite them being the 7th seed, winning, what they win, 18 SEC games, something like that, they were still undervalued. They still were slept on. And it's quite bizarre because their offense wasn't great this year. Their pitching wasn't great, but they still somehow won games. They don't have a legitimate ace. Justin LeBron, I mean, this is a guy coming into the year that was pushing to potentially be the 1-1 pick, or at least top 3 pick. And he really, and it's weird to say this, I mean, he's got like 17 home runs, 40 stolen bases, and that's a down year for him. He's only batting like 260. but they don't really have that many sluggers on offense this year. Pitching is a little weak, and they're doing well. So I wouldn't be surprised to see them win. But let's not forget, Tyler Fay, the Friday night guy for Alabama, has given up 20 home runs this year. 20. 2-0. Oklahoma's just hot right now. They're feeling it. Skip Johnson's been here a million times. And I think Oklahoma just caught fire. Like, it's crazy to think they won back-to-back against Georgia Tech, facing elimination in the regionals. But I can't go against the Skip Johnson team right now. I mean, and here's what Oklahoma does that will terrorize you. These fuckers steal bases at an unrelenting clip. All they do is steal. Reggie Wills comes in, 5-6 years ago, whatever it was. All they do is steal. They have guys hitting for power right now, finding power surge like Dayton Taki, Dayton LeChance. I mean, LeChance had a great year. Brendan Brock, like they have guys that can still get the ball out, but they're more hit for contact, get on base, steal, run the base as well. You know, manufacturing runs old school, and their pitching is done well. I think they get past this game. But ultimately, I think their pitching's been hot, but I still think whoever wins Texas, Georgia is going to be able to take them down. But let me tell you something. I'm not trying to speak this into existence. 4 years ago, I took Oklahoma 60-1 coming into the tournament. 60-1. Ole Miss, last fucking team in, on the verge of losing early to Miami. When Miami was good that year. Miami had a wagon in 2022. They end up winning, and Oklahoma was looking good, and then Ole Miss get into the finals. Oklahoma loses. Ole Miss wins. Team that, just caught fire. I swear to God, if the same thing happens in reverse and I'm on the wrong side of this shit again, Oklahoma, Ole Miss, I'm going to lose my mind. I'm going to lose my mind. So knock wood, not trying to speak it into existence, but Christ on a cross. So, John, we have Oklahoma, Alabama here. We like Oklahoma. We like West Virginia. We like Ole Miss. We like Texas all game one. So, obviously, throughout the week, there's going to be a lot of, mixing and matching. The odds below reflect of what we have right now, but there's actually bets where you can name the finalists and the exact results. So, FanDuel's got them. Hard Rock's got them. Anything you're liking right now?
No, I mean, those odds are usually pretty terrible too. If I were to pick one, I would probably go Ole Miss and Texas over Ole Miss in the finals. That being said, that I'm probably biased considering my only future left is on Texas. So, but if it's not Texas, I think it'll be Georgia over Ole Miss. So those would be my two plays. If I had to make plays there.
I have money on Texas, Ole Miss, and Georgia in a parlay, but I did, to kind of even it out, I did Texas over Ole Miss. I did Texas over Ole Miss exact result. I think that was 1750 plus 1750. I did Georgia over Ole Miss at 16-1, and then I took both Georgia versus Ole Miss and Texas versus Ole Miss at 10-1. But here's the problem as well, because I don't know, once the games start tomorrow, I don't know if those numbers come back up. It's not very reliable and consistent. So I would suggest if you're trying to get something in, you would get it in before the games start tomorrow. That's what I think. There was a comment I saw. So we're getting K-props. Volantis K's, what would you play up to? I did a little parlay, K-prop parlay last week. It was Volchko 6Ks, Volantis 8, Taylor Rabe 8. And I don't know, man. I think the problem is in the College World Series, guys get even quicker hooks, especially against Georgia. I probably wouldn't go anywhere near if it's say 5.5 is probably the cutoff for me against Georgia. What do you think?
I don't know. That's a tough one. I do hope we get Cade props, and I remember we did last year in first fives and things like that. So I'm definitely going to look into this, but I would need to see the numbers first.
I mean, it's hard because Georgia's just a different animal, but if it makes you feel any better, Volantis, last week 10 Ks, the week before 7 Ks, the week before 4 Ks, but he only came in for 2 innings. The week before that, 7 Ks. Tennessee was terrible start, 2 Ks. 12, 11, 12. I mean, he's been pretty good on the Ks, but again, shorter leash against Georgia. He hasn't faced Georgia this year, so it's a little bit interesting. All right, John. Confirm the pick one more time. What's the prediction?
Yep. Got Texas plus 1,600. Sticking with them. Like I said, I might hedge with Georgia. And now, while getting the good odds, because I do think it's going to be either Texas or Georgia. But I like Texas.
Nice. I mean, I love Ole Miss, but I mean, I'm sticking with the team that I bet preseason. That was one of my picks. I'm going to say Texas as well. And I think it all hinges on them winning that first game. If you win that first game, if you're 1-0 and then you go against Oklahoma or Alabama, Riojas, that's the linchpin. Riojas is the biggest X factor. If Riojas is the guy that we saw the first 6 weeks, it's easy. Texas is going all the way. Big if. But everybody, really appreciate you locking in. Best of luck this weekend with your bets. Let's go Texas. Let's go Oklahoma. Let's go Texas. Let's go Ole Miss. And we'll see you again on Breaking Bet.